A lone security camera flickers in a silent elevator. A young woman presses herself into the corner, frantically peering into the empty hallway as if something unseen is chasing her. Her name is Elisa Lam, and in 2013 she vanished inside Los Angeles' infamously haunted Cecil Hotel. Weeks later, her body was found in the rooftop water tank under bizarre circumstances. Her final moments, caught on that eerie video, remain an unsettling mystery that sets the stage for one of America's darkest legends. What evil lurks in the halls of this abandoned hotel, and who or what drove Elisa to such a grim fate? Before we continue, if you love uncovering real-life haunted mysteries, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more chilling documentary-style stories. The Hotel of Shadows. Atmospheric buildup. The Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, built in the 1920s, later gained a reputation as an epicenter of tragedy and paranormal intrigue. The Cecil Hotel stands in downtown Los Angeles like a brooding giant, its once opulent Beaux Arts facade now darkened by nearly a century of death and despair. Opened in 1924 as a luxurious destination, the hotel's marble lobby and ornate architecture masked a coming storm of misfortune. As the decades passed, the glamour faded. The Great Depression hit, the surrounding area decayed into Skid Row, and the Cecil became a refuge for the trodden down. By night, the neon Hotel Cecil sign cast eerie red light onto the sidewalk, an invitation to lost souls. Locals whispered that something malevolent had taken root in the building. Step through the front doors and a chill clings to your spine. The air is heavy with the residue of untold tragedies, as if the very walls remember every gruesome secret. In the dusty silence of its 700 vacant rooms, there's a sense that not everyone checked out. Inside, peeling wallpaper and dim corridors stretch into darkness. The faded elegance can't hide the unsettling feeling that you're never truly alone here. At the Cecil Hotel, despair and the supernatural seem to seep from the floors. This is more than just an abandoned building. It's a monument to misery, where each room holds a story of heartbreak or horror. No wonder many consider the Cecil one of America's most haunted hotels, a place so tainted by bizarre accidents, mysterious deaths, murders, and suicides that it's hard to believe it's all coincidence. The very atmosphere bristles with dread, as if the hotel itself is waiting to share its next terrifying tale. Timeline of terror. Decades of dark incidents. From the day it opened, the Cecil Hotel seemed destined to collect the desperate and the doomed. 1920s, only a few years after welcoming its first guests, the hotel witnessed its inaugural tragedy. On January 22, 1927, 52-year-old Percy Ormond Cook became the Cecil's first recorded suicide. Distraught over a broken marriage, he ended his life with a gunshot in his room. It would not be the last. 1930s, during the Depression, as hope withered outside, death found a home inside. In 1931, a guest named W.K. Norton was found dead after ingesting poison, an apparent suicide. Over the next few years, more guests took their own lives in the Cecil's rooms, a self-inflicted gunshot here, a slashed throat there, each incident adding another restless spirit to the hotel's roster. People spoke in hushed tones of the hotel as a suicide magnet, a place where anguished souls were drawn to end their pain. By the 1940s and 50s, so many had died that long-term residents had nicknamed the Cecil the Suicide. 1940s. Not all of the Cecil's horrors were self-inflicted. In 1944, a young woman named Dorothy Jean Purcell, in a delirious state, committed an unspeakable act by discarding her newborn out of a window, a crime for which she was later found not guilty by reason of insanity. The hotel had begun to live up to another nickname, Hotel Death. 1947. According to local legend, even the notorious Black Dahlia may have brushed against the Cecil's darkness. Just days before her gruesome unsolved murder, Elizabeth Short was allegedly spotted drinking at the Cecil's bar, telling an LAPD officer that someone was following her. Whether fact or fiction, the story only cemented the hotel's eerie reputation. 1950s, 1960s. The deaths continued. Guests leapt from upper-floor windows in despair so often that passers-by learned to walk with their eyes turned upward. In one tragic instance, on October 12, 1962, a fight between 27-year-old Pauline Otten and her estranged husband led Pauline to hurl herself from a ninth-floor window. In a ghastly twist of fate, she landed on an unlucky pedestrian below, 65-year-old George Gianni, killing them both instantly. What should have been a quiet afternoon stroll for George became a deadly encounter with the Cecil's curse. It's as if bloodshed is an amenity offered to everyone who checks in, one writer would later remark grimly. The hotel seemed unable to contain the evil within its walls. Even innocents on the street could become collateral damage to whatever dark force hovered over 640 South Main Street. 1964. The Cecil's most infamous unsolved murder struck this year, proving that the horror wasn't limited to suicides. Pigeon Goldie Osgood, a 65-year-old retired telephone operator known for feeding pigeons in nearby Pershing Square, was found brutally murdered in her room. A hotel worker discovered Goldie lifeless on the ransacked bed. She had been assaulted and stabbed to death. A Los Angeles Dodgers cap, her favorite, lying nearby on the floor. The crime shocked even a city as jaded as LA. Police arrested a man found wandering blood-stained in the area, but he was later released for lack of evidence. Goldie's killer was never brought to justice. Her murder remains unsolved to this day. Residents whispered that Goldie's kindly spirit might linger in the Cecil, seeking the justice she never received in life. 1980s. As if the Cecil needed more darkness, it unwittingly sheltered actual monsters during this decade. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker serial killer, made the Cecil his lair while terrorizing Los Angeles. Living on the 14th floor, Ramirez stalked the night to commit at least 13 savage murders and other assaults. After each blood-soaked outing, he would creep back into the Cecil, sometimes disposing of his bloody clothes in the dumpsters out back, letting the building's grim aura cover his tracks. Locals swear that during this time, dark rituals were performed on the Cecil's roof. Ramirez, a self-professed Satanist, was said to invoke evil forces there. Some wonder if he conjured something truly malevolent that still prowls the hotel's halls. Then, in 1991, another serial killer checked in. Jack Unterweger of Austria chose the Cecil, reportedly to mimic Ramirez's dark exploits, and murdered at least 3 Los Angeles women while staying in the hotel. 2 serial killers calling the Cecil home in less than a decade solidified the hotel's hellish reputation. By now, many believed an infectious evil clung to the place, corrupting its guests or drawing in those who already had darkness in their hearts. 1990s through 2000s. Even as the hotel limped into the 21st century under a new name, Stay on Main, the tragedies persisted. In 1992, a young man was found dead in the alley behind the hotel, likely after a fall from an upper floor under mysterious circumstances. In 2015, another guest apparently jumped to his death, yet another life claimed by the Cecil's curse. Managers admitted that deaths occurred with disturbing frequency. In fact, one former manager later revealed that at least 80 guests died on the property between 2000 and 2017 alone, a staggering body count for a single building. By this time, the Cecil Hotel had fully earned its sinister nicknames. Its very address had become shorthand for death and despair in Los Angeles. 2013. Then came the incident that would captivate the world and once again cast a spotlight on the Cecil's eerie legacy, the vanishing of Elisa Lam. Elisa was a 21-year-old tourist from Canada, traveling alone and staying at the Cecil, by then a hybrid low-budget hotel hostel. On January 31, 2013, Elisa disappeared. For weeks, nothing was known of her fate. Then a chilling piece of evidence emerged, a surveillance video from one of the Cecil's elevators. In the footage, Elisa appears distressed and disoriented. She enters the elevator, presses multiple buttons, then peeks out as if hiding from someone unseen. She moves her hands in bizarre, inhuman gestures, talking to nobody visible. The elevator doors inexplicably fail to close. Millions watched this unsettling video online, spinning theories. Was Elisa fleeing a pursuer, hallucinating, or encountering a paranormal threat that can't be seen on camera? Soon after, maintenance workers investigated complaints of foul-tasting, discolored water from guest room taps. On February 19, Elisa's body was found floating in a covered rooftop water tank. Somehow, she had ended up naked in the cistern, decomposing for days while unsuspecting guests drank and bathed in that same water. The door to the roof was locked and alarmed. Accessing the tank was no simple accident. The coroner eventually ruled her death an accidental drowning exacerbated by her bipolar disorder, but many weren't convinced. How did Elisa manage to open and climb into a tank 8 feet tall on her own? Why did the elevator video show her behaving so strangely just moments before she vanished? The questions linger like a ghostly echo. To this day, Elisa Lam's death remains a magnet for speculation, and for many it confirmed what they long suspected, that the Cecil Hotel itself is somehow cursed. Perhaps Elisa felt an otherworldly presence in that elevator, something that drove her into the clutches of the hotel's darkest depths. Over nearly 100 years, the Cecil Hotel's timeline of terror includes at least 16 confirmed unnatural deaths, suicides, murders, unexplained falls, and countless other nightmarish incidents. Each decade added new layers to the legend. So many lives ended within these walls that it's easy to imagine a congregation of ghosts roaming its corridors. The building has been witness to so much bloodshed and tragedy that it's as if evil itself has taken up residence, one paranormal investigator remarked. And as the horrors piled up, so did stories of the supernatural. But one doesn't need to be a professional ghost hunter to encounter the Cecil's supernatural side. Ordinary people have had chilling brushes with the unknown here, sometimes without even realizing it until later. From mysterious phone calls in the middle of the night with only static on the line, to the inexplicable scented perfume wafting through deserted corridors. Could that be Pigeon Goldie's favorite powder? Or the lavender perfume of the 1940s Lady in Black ghost some claim wanders the halls? The Cecil offers countless small, unnerving experiences. Security guards patrolling the empty floors often quit after a few nights. One reportedly fled mid-shift, refusing to ever go back upstairs after he heard a woman softly humming an old music box tune in a hallway that was completely empty. Perhaps the most frightening encounters of all are those experienced firsthand by guests who lived to tell the tale. And one such story, buried for decades, suggests that something in room 712 did not rest in peace. One guest's nightmare, the smothering in room 712. In the mid-1960s, a young man from Northern Ireland checked into the Cecil Hotel looking for a fresh start. He was an immigrant working downtown and needed an affordable place to stay. The Cecil, cheap and conveniently located, seemed perfect. For a while, it was uneventful. The man, whom we'll call Patrick, came and went to work, aware of the seediness of the hotel, but not its sinister pedigree. Late one night in 1965, Patrick was jolted awake in his tiny 7th-floor room, rumored to be room 712, by a terrifying sensation. He couldn't breathe. An invisible force pinned him to the bed, pressing on his chest and throat. Panic flooded him as he struggled to move, but his limbs felt paralyzed. It was as if a pair of hands he could not see were tightening around his neck. Patrick's eyes darted around the darkness, but no one was there, at least no one living. He later described it as a heavy pressure, as if someone was sitting on me, suffocating him. In those moments, he truly thought he was about to die. And then, as abruptly as it began, the oppressive weight lifted. Patrick gasped and scrambled out of the room, his heart hammering in his chest. Disoriented and scared out of his wits, he ran down to the lobby where the night clerk stood unfazed behind the desk. Patrick stammered out what had happened, that something attacked him in his sleep. The clerk, far from surprised, gave a knowing nod. With a casual, almost bored tone, he said, "Oh, that? Someone was murdered in your room." Patrick's blood ran cold. The clerk's words hung in the air, a blunt explanation for the unexplained. The room Patrick had been sleeping in bore a violent history, and perhaps the victim's restless spirit still lingered, reenacting their final moments with anyone unlucky enough to be there after dark. The young man immediately demanded a room change. He spent the remainder of his tenancy in another part of the hotel, undisturbed, but he could never shake what happened that night. Years later, even as an older man, Patrick would tremble and break into a sweat, recalling the nightmare at the Cecil that left him convinced he'd felt pure evil pressing the life out of him. Only decades afterward did Patrick learn the likely source of that phantom attack. Unbeknownst to him in 1965, the Cecil Hotel had already been the scene of at least a dozen suicides by then. More disturbingly, just 1 year before his stay, in 1964, Pigeon Goldie Osgood had been choked to death with a cloth and stabbed in a room on the same floor. It's very possible that Patrick was assigned Goldie's very room after the crime scene was cleaned, room 712 according to some accounts. If true, one can imagine Goldie's terrified spirit reliving her final moments, lashing out in desperation. Or perhaps it was another entity entirely. The Cecil had plenty of candidates. Either way, Patrick's encounter stands as one of the most harrowing first-person accounts of a Cecil haunting. It suggests that beyond the documented deaths, something truly supernatural stalks those rooms, something that can reach out from beyond death to mark the living. Patrick's story was almost lost to time, shared only with family and close friends. It wasn't until interest in the Cecil reignited in recent years, thanks to the Elisa Lam case and a Netflix documentary, that his family spoke up. They attested that, logical man though he was, Patrick never recovered from that night and believed wholeheartedly that the Cecil Hotel was haunted by an evil presence. He had survived World War II bombings in Belfast as a child, but he said nothing scared him as deeply as what he met in that Cecil hotel room. Legends, lore, and the notorious reputation. By now, the Cecil Hotel's name is etched in Los Angeles folklore as a place where nightmares walk. Over nearly a century, it has accrued a litany of legends that blur the line between fact and fiction. Taxi drivers swapping ghost stories might tell you about the Lost Souls Collective, the idea that all those who died at the Cecil roam together in a sort of spectral congregation, searching for the peace they never found in life. Visitors on ghost tours in downtown LA stop across the street from the boarded-up hotel, and guides recount tales of people seeing phantom figures staring from the upper windows or strange lights in vacant rooms. Some swear they've seen a spectral woman in black on the hotel's fire escape. Could it be one of the many who jumped, perpetually teetering on the ledge between life and death? Others speak of a lady in white, believed to be a heartbroken spirit, maybe one of the unnamed suicides from the 1930s, drifting through corridors in a white gown. One persistent legend claims that after Richard Ramirez was captured, a demonic entity remained in his 14th floor room, an entity he might have summoned through his satanic rituals. Hotel maids later reported feeling dread in that room, as if something watched them, and guests complained of nightmares of a laughing shadow man when they slept in it. It's said that room was one of the first to be gutted during later renovations, possibly to cleanse whatever lurked there. Paranormal enthusiasts note that 2 serial killers and untold tragic deaths give the Cecil an unusually potent concentration of negative energy, a perfect recipe, they suggest, for a paranormal hotspot. In occult theory, places of intense trauma can become portals, attracting entities like moths to a flame. If true, the Cecil Hotel might as well be an inferno of such energy. The hotel's infamy grew so much that it inspired fictional portrayals. The Hotel Cortez in the TV series American Horror Story Hotel was directly based on the Cecil's legacy of murder and mayhem. In the show, a hyper-fictionalized version, ghosts and demons mingle with serial killers in a cursed hotel, art imitating life perhaps more closely than we'd like. The real Cecil wasn't used for filming, but the mere fact that Hollywood immortalized it in pop culture speaks to how notorious it had become. It had transcended reality into the realm of modern myth, the quintessential haunted hotel. Locals now call it by many names: the Suicide, Hotel Death, the Haunted Cecil. Each nickname carries a kernel of truth. Perhaps the most fitting description came from a 2023 article that declared the Cecil a place of real darkness and evil, not just because of the crimes and deaths, but because something in there seems to amplify human despair. It's as if despair is woven into the linens, as one author vividly put it. Guests checked in running from their demons, and some of them found new ones waiting in their rooms. As the years wore on, fewer and fewer tourists dared book a stay. By the 2010s, the Cecil was housing mostly long-term residents, people with nowhere else to go. Yet even they felt the weight of the building's past. Two longtime tenants in 2008 casually referred to their home not as the Cecil Hotel, but as the Suicide because of its history. When those who live there speak that way, you know the darkness has seeped into the community consciousness. In 2017, after nearly 94 years of operation, the Cecil Hotel finally shut its doors, not due to one specific horror, but because its owners intended a renovation to wash away its bloody past. The building has since been largely abandoned, its dusty hallways silent except for the occasional motion of maintenance workers or the odd urban explorer who manages to slip inside. The plan was to convert the structure into affordable housing and rebrand yet again, erasing the name Cecil for good. But even in this new chapter, misfortune clings to the place. Renovations stalled amid financial issues and a pandemic. As of today, the grand reopening as a residence has only partially happened, and many of the old hotel floors remain eerily empty, frozen in time. Peeking through the chain-link fences and dusty lobby windows, one can see a grand staircase leading up into gloom. Graffiti mars the walls, and a sense of decay hangs heavy. It's as if the hotel resists being reborn. It wants to be remembered for what it truly is. And so the Cecil Hotel still looms, 11+ stories high, watching over Skid Row like a silent sentinel of suffering. Tourists drive by on ghost tours, perhaps hoping to catch a glimpse of a shadow at a window or a light in one of the darkened rooms. Many swear the building gives off a bad energy, an almost physical aura of dread that spills onto the sidewalk. Over the years, countless psychics and sensitives have attempted to cleanse the hotel, but most come away overwhelmed, describing the presence of not one ghost, but an army of souls trapped and anguished. Lost souls wander here, one psychic said, and something darker herds them. Skeptics, of course, argue that the Cecil's legacy is nothing more than tragic coincidence plus human imagination, but even they admit the sheer volume of horror associated with this place is hard to explain away. How did one unremarkable hotel rack up so many macabre tales unless there was something about it, something hungry? In true documentary fashion, we end not with neat answers, but with lingering questions. The final scene, an old brass room key hanging on a dusty rack, tag number 712, never returned. A flicker of motion in a hallway mirror with no one around. The hotel stands, dark but not empty. Do spirits pace those halls, replaying their tragedies? Has the Cecil Hotel been consumed by the darkness it cultivated, doomed to emanate despair forever? Even now, if you listen closely at night from the sidewalk, you might imagine the faint echo of a gunshot, a woman's scream, or the whisper of "help me" from an upper-floor window. The Cecil Hotel's story may never truly be over. As one writer aptly noted, bleach only cleans out so much blood, and walls never forget the screams. The Cecil has been scrubbed and painted, renamed and repurposed, yet its soul remains stained. One day, the building may fully reopen, and new guests will sleep in those rooms, blissfully unaware of the nightmares that occurred within. Will the cycle start anew, or will the long-dormant phantoms finally rest? For now, the Cecil Hotel sits in limbo, a towering question mark against the Los Angeles skyline. Its secrets are still locked in those vacant rooms, waiting, perhaps, for someone brave or foolish enough to seek them. And if you ever find yourself standing at 640 South Main Street, gazing up at those sealed windows, ask yourself, would you dare spend a single night in the most haunted hotel in America? After all, you might check in for the thrill, but you may not be the only guest in your room. In the end, the Cecil Hotel leaves us with a final unsettling thought. Sometimes the scariest part of a horror story is knowing it's all true. And as long as the Cecil shadow falls on Main Street, the story of this real-life haunted hotel remains open-ended, a living or perhaps undead legend that continues to frighten, fascinate, and confound. Sleep tight.